Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the City Council on January 20th. Pam, can you please do a roll call?
Mayor Gunselman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sturt, Councilmember Reardon,
Here.
Councilmember Swift, Councilmember Feist,
Here.
all present.
Can you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? At this time, I'll open a public forum. The public is permitted to address the City Council on items not appearing on the agenda. Comments may not exceed 5 minutes. In accordance with state law, however, no action or discussion may take place on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. The City Council may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may request staff to report back at a future meeting on the matter. Would anyone care to address the council on an item not on the agenda? Okay, hearing no one, we're going to move on to the city manager's report.
Well, welcome back, Council. Happy New Year. I think that will be my last official Happy New Year for 2026. Yeah, so this is a picture. We got all that rain. It's amazing how much the creek can change. So just some quick updates, and you guys had 2 months worth of information reports in your packet. So you probably saw some of that. The top picture, there's a mudslide that happened on the school property on December 19th. Turned out there was a water main on the school property that burst. The bottom picture it was the state after it was cleaned up and put some reinforcements there, tried to protect the sidewalk at that point. There's been on the roadways, been a lot of pothole fixing. You know, this time of year, we get a lot of potholes that start to appear. And we are deep in the engineering planning for the repaving of Sutter Hill Road, including looking at what we need to do to trim some of those trees that hang over the roadway when we do that project. So we'll be ready to bid it in the spring. Hopefully get a good price.
Still thinking about doing a sidewalk there?
Yeah, that's
maybe?
what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
It came out to be pretty expensive.
Was it?
So,
Well, what about just using blacktop and putting wide shoulders in, and you know,
we can try.
don't necessarily need sidewalks in my opinion, but
Yeah.
I know there's there's hardly any room as it is, but
Right.
I mean, if we could just, in lieu of sidewalks, if we can just maximize the shoulders and pave them.
At least provide a little space there, yeah.
Yeah.
The trick is with this particular money, it's a current border to border, but we could articulate and differentiate if we were going to add a little something, and we could pay for that ourselves if it were within budget, perhaps.
Right. So
Well,
I'll find out what that would cost, because I do think we were looking at a real sidewalk. And again, the issue was to, you know, what side, and do you have to cross over halfway up because
Yeah,
there's no
exactly.
shoulder.
Yeah.
The west side, like the tennis courts were right above it. I drove past it and saw.
No, this is
Okay.
Sutter Hill Road we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so January is kind of a busy month on the finance department side. There are these filings with the state of California that Mason's been working on. We also started our audit with our new auditing firm. And then we also talked to 2 different companies about kind of revenue audits, particularly sales tax. We've been paying for a software license that we used occasionally, but not that much. And our contract was more than 10 years old, and they wanted to raise the price. And so we took that as an opportunity to say, well, what if we use that money for auditing instead? And so what these firms do is they look at your sales tax revenue, and if some of it's misallocated, like say the money is being paid at the county instead of the city, they'll recover that money, and they take a percentage of what they find. So I think we're pretty interested in doing that. We're waiting for proposals to come in.
Does it also include potential businesses that just may not even be paying taxes and unaware or whatever?
It can, they don't really do enforcement, so it'll be up to the city to go to the state and say, these people aren't paying tax. But, you know, if say they had multiple locations and the Sutter Creek tax was going to a different location, they would spot that kind of thing.
Okay, so they could help identify if there
Yeah.
is such a situation.
Um, no, we would cancel the software one and, yeah. The state has some reporting. It's a little more manual, but it's pretty powerful. So, you know, again, we feel like we'll still get the reporting, but you know, the software they provide's been pretty basic and we really haven't looked at it that often. Also, we've been working on, I've been talking about this Nexus study for quite a few long time. It's completed. We're going to bring kind of an overview of that to you guys in the first meeting in February. And then Pam's heading up the effort to also look at all of our other fees. So we'll kind of use the February 2nd meeting to talk through a lot of those. And then we have to do a public notice and bring it back to you guys for adoption at a second meeting. And then tonight, you know, we're having a discussion about police revenue. And then on the economic development front, we held our third entrepreneurial event last week. We had about 5 people attend. We held it up front in the conference room this time because some people had trouble finding parking for the grammar school. And I think it was a good discussion. So we're going to, you know, continue to look at like how we can advertise that better. We're thinking about doing one on AI in February. And then, you know, I told you quite a while ago that we were selected for this USC Economic Development Challenge. So we have a team now and they started and we were meeting with them monthly. It's going to be fairly quick. They basically, you know, analyze us and write up the recommendations by April. The team we have is actually, it's all grad students and they're all people that work for cities or for government. So I think they got a good background.
Tom, just to go back on this slide, to confirm, you're gonna look at cost of just having a wider shoulder then, even if we pay for that out of Measure P funds?
Yeah, I'll talk to WGA just to see what it would cost and how we would
If
work
it's
with the
feasible.
EC to say, you know, they paved this part and we paved 6 inches on both sides or whatever it's going to be. And then, yeah, and then the last point here is just more generally, I've been seeing requests for businesses looking to locate different places and, you know, just trying to see if we have any sites that would be attractive to new businesses. So we are pretty landlocked in terms of like commercial space.
The question about the open used to be restaurant downtown would be just towards the south end. I believe that's aware of that.
I think your microphone's.
Chatterbox?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Um,
working it up now.
So my question is, that building seems to have gotten some attention. There have been several days of a team working on improvements, painting and that. Is that for a plan? Will be somebody coming in, do you know? Has anybody applied?
You talking about the little building behind where?
No, right on Main Street, just down from Chocolate.
Across the
Oh.
driveway from Bubbles.
Wayne Vincent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that, yeah. I don't know if he has a tenant now, but yeah, he's told me that they're intending to get it rented out,
Oh, okay.
which is good.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, back to Sutter Hill Road. That, and you mentioned just doing existing paving. Is WGA looking at there's always been a drainage kind of a problem there, you know, issue. And I mean, this would be the time to address it. I'm sure.
Are
If
you
they're
talking about
looking at-
off the roadway? Like-
Well, on the east side of the upper part there, you know, there's basically the road, we've paved a little swale next to the road and it looks like it needs attention. I just assume that when we do the planning for that, that we're looking at if that needs attention too.
That was
Just-
good feedback. But again,
Okay.
ACTC's been very precise in that they will not
Yeah, I get
pay
that.
for improvements. So anything like that, we'll have to price it out and then bring
Right.
it back to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also a stream there that, or a spring or something that seems to, is that what you're talking about before?
At the bottom of the hill?
At the top, beyond Eureka, it's always wet.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't even, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That is a spring. That's always been wet but I don't know how it could be addressed.
A brewery. They did it in Colorado.
Yeah.
It does go with our
Bottling plant.
whole streets model that we had
Yeah.
with Measure P, though, to,
Yeah.
you know, take some of our money to stack on to
To do it right.
ACTC's project and do the whole thing at once.
Like,
It would be a
like
shame
we're
to
doing
have a
with,
new
like we're doing with the
road
water
access.
agency on Broadway.
Okay, yeah, I made some notes. On the wastewater side, just to kind of reiterate, we basically wrapped up Henderson Dam work as far as we got. It was about 250,000 of the project. We are working on bids for next summer to do this cast in place approach. And we have continued to work on the metal work on the pier's been replaced, and there's this new gauge in the picture. And some work on the valve to make sure it will actually close, because the way it was operating before, we don't think it fully closed. And then there's been a lot of activity on the wastewater treatment plant design. You know, we're meeting regularly with Schneider. Again, the initial phase one focus is a lot on the regulatory requirements. We have, you know, experts modeling the flooding in the creek, and we're really trying to determine what we can get approved for the least amount of cost. You know, and we are also getting ready to start meeting with the water board and sharing some of these plans with them. And then I've also been working with this consultant from a company called Ridgeline. We're starting to work on some overviews that we could use to approach elected officials for earmarks. And he's also developing kind of a financial model for the city, which will feed into any grants or loans that we go for.
Good.
And I sent out an email to you guys earlier. We did get awarded $500,000 grant to help pay for the batteries, which will really shave the peaks off the PG&E bills for the new plant. And we really squeaked in under the wire. We were one of the last cities to get this. There were a bunch of cities that were turned down, basically shut out.
Yeah.
And we're also still hopeful that we made it under the wire for the incentive tax credit under the federal program for the solar panels. And then a lot of what we're doing right now is a lot of data gathering and sharing. You know, one of the issues is our BODs, which are biological solids, is higher than a residential community should be. And so we're really trying to do some triage, see where it's coming from. We met with the owner of Ramco and agreed to some changes there that we think were causing a problem. And then we're looking at sampling Martel, which, you know, again, that's under AWA. We're really not sure how often they're doing grease trap inspections and that kind of thing, but we're really dependent on them doing that. It will drive down the cost of the new plant if we can eliminate some of these solids we're seeing. And then kind of related to that too is the last couple of years, we spent quite a bit of money fixing our I&I issues, and we're coming up with a plan to kind of measure the overall impact, measured, I think 11 different spots to see if we can show that we've made some improvements.
Just anecdotally with the storms that we had, could the operators conclude any, they've been there a long time, see
Yeah.
they know what happens when it rains.
Yeah, I mean,
there
the feeling was that it's better, but we're going to need data.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad to hear that at least there's a feeling.
Yeah. And again, we know there are other problems, and,
Yeah.
you know, even though we fixed some, it may be leaking in from other places.
Right.
We read I think it was in the Public Works report about Henderson or Preston going up 12 feet or something during that storm.
Yeah.
That's just drainage from the hills that it's in, right? Not all from our flow.
It was a combination, I think, of everything. Yeah, so it was coming down, from Henderson. Yep, and then we're having our first meeting with the water board next Monday. That's going to include Schneider. This is still a joint meeting with ION and CDCR. The water board's basically saying they want to start to talk about next steps, and we're going to be, showing them that we're serious about planning for the new plant, and hopefully that will factor into their next steps. And then just some other items. I think I told you last time about the green waste bin. Seems like people really like that bin, and it was actually one of our highest social media posts ever, which is kind of interesting. Some pictures here. The Cal Fire crew kind of went down through the creek. I did get a lot of questions about that. We've done it pretty much the same way for years. We cut down the stuff and we leave it in the creek, and then when the rains come, it gets basically taken down below the wastewater plant, which is what we did this year. And then, we went through all our holiday events. There's a picture there of Public Works putting up the decorations. And the police were there for the Parade of Lights, as well as La Posada. You may have noticed that a couple of gas stations are closed. There's a state law that single walled gas tanks needed to be replaced with double walled gas tanks to protect leaks. Both of these gas stations waited until the last month to kind of start their process. They had several years. So both of them have construction going underway. The Provisions place that it's actually up for sale, and there's a new owner who's an escrow. He came to the design review committee last week, and that was approved. So I think part of it, he wanted to get a read on how easy it was going to be to work with the planning commission, design review committee. And so that was good. They knocked down the pavilion when they took out the old tank, and he's going to replace it with something that looks very similar. It's going to fix up the roof, which I think has some leaks. So it'll look a little fresher, be fresh paint. It's not going to change that much. And then the next step will be to put in a new tank. And then the one up on Ridge Road, I think the construction's well underway there.
Is this tank, did you say it was going to be above ground?
Yeah, that's kind of the new way to do it. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be more environmentally friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be behind the building.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I have told staff to really prioritize this. We want to get these gas stations back up and running.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then Derek and I had an end of the year meeting with John Gedney from ACTC and their attorney, talking about the Sutter Creek Ranch. I think it was a pretty positive meeting, and we kind of came to an understanding of each of our perspectives, and we're waiting right now for them to propose some language that we would use for this project. So
ACTC language?
yeah, well,
For
it'd
them
be
to
that we would
respond
use,
back.
I guess, in our conditions of approval. So we'll share it with you as we,
Was Sutter
that.
Creek Ranch at this meeting, or are you in ACTC?
just the four of us.
Back real quick to the gas stations. That could obviously affect our sales tax, so
Mhm.
just keep that on the radar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Make an adjustment if
gas tax and sales tax.
And then just generally, I don't know if you guys have been hearing things. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on our social media activity.
Absolutely.
And then, in terms of events, it's really a slow time of year. So no special events in January.
That's
We announced the
everybody's
duck
feedback.
race today.
What's that?
We announced the duck race today,
Okay.
With a date?
April 25th.
And then, we skipped a few meetings through the holidays, but now we're kind of back fast and furious. So we've quite a few things on your agenda. Tried to keep it streamlined tonight, but there's quite a few items there. This Saturday, meeting 8 o'clock here, and we will keep it to 3 hours. And we're going to talk about priorities, some kind of metrics for day-to-day operations. And then you guys will confirm your planning commission and design review committee appointments. And then in February, I already mentioned the Nexus study, which is the developer impact fees. This consultant that we're working with on financing the wastewater plant suggests that you guys passed a resolution giving me the authority to apply for an SRF loan, so that we'll have that ready. And so we'll bring that to you guys, but we're not gonna be
SRF is,
a state revolving fund. It's
Right.
low interest. It can take a really long time. We'll put in for it, but we may not count on it.
Will we put in the maximum amount that they authorized or looked forward and said we could afford in terms of amount?
Yeah, I think so. And again, sometimes they'll give you a loan plus a grant.
Yeah.
And it is the lowest interest, but it's kind of a low possibility of success, and it could take kind of years. So
Yeah.
it's a revolving fund. As one project's paid back, then they hand out the money to somebody else. And then we're also going to start tonight, this short-term rental moratorium. And starting in February, we want to start talking about what you guys would like to see in an ordinance. I expect the conversation in February to be really mostly a discussion about some options, give us direction. I mentioned we're looking at all the other city fees. Some of them haven't been updated in quite a while. We're also seeing if there are potentially some new fees, and whether those require a change to an ordinance. So we'll try to have a good discussion around that.
Tom, is Erin, in her reports, it sounded like perhaps she's also working towards some proposed language on the short-term rental thing. Is she actually moving forward with something to bring to us, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've discussed an outline, and she's
Okay.
working on it.
Good.
Yep. We have the ACTC annual reports in February. And then there's some economic development projects that I'd like to have a discussion on. And if we can get to it, maybe a discussion around surveillance and cameras around town. And that's it. You guys have any other questions?
I did have I could wait till the end. Okay. All right. If nobody else, did the public have any questions for Tom? Damien? Item 6 is the approval of minutes from December 1st.
No presentations.
No presentations.
I'd move to approve the minutes.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have 4 items on our consent agenda. We can approve them at once, or if anyone wanted to pull any for questions or discussion, speak now.
Unless someone else wanted to pull something, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I had a question on the Bryson Cottages easement acceptance. I think it's just a brief question and we don't have to pull them. On the staff report for the discussion, it says that we're accepting the easements that were initially offered in 2009. But it looked like we hadn't completed the easements on 2009. So I'm wondering what the difference is here.
So we searched everywhere. We went back and looked at the meetings. This came to council back in 2009. As far as we can tell, it was never approved and it was never put on the property. So we're cleaning that up and it's kind of holding the project up.
Okay, gotcha. And then on the schedule of city council meetings, it's just the staff report, I think, but the attachment is the schedule, it says the schedule of design and review committee meetings. So you might want to make that correction.
Will
Sorry,
do.
say
The
that one
bottom
again?
line of the staff report.
Oh, it's in the staff report, but not the schedule?
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, there was a motion to approve the consent agenda and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Item 8, we have a public hearing for the urgency ordinance imposing the moratorium on short-term rentals.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item has been delayed a few times, but is now before you. Back in October, you heard a report on the status of short-term rentals in the city. Some years ago, I know I was the city attorney. There was a decision to use our to use our conditional use permit process. Prior councils actually did several workshops, and I spent a lot of time drafting permanent regulations. We got almost at a very granular level, but I think the feeling was we were spending a lot of time at that juncture dealing with something that really, a lot of other cities were experiencing. So probably in the 2015, before, from 2015, before the pandemic, it seemed like this was a hot issue. Cities were really digging into this, and there was a lot of legislative developments. So we spent a lot of time on that. But ultimately, we looked at the situation on the ground, as it were, and determined that it wasn't necessary then to use a specific ordinance because we felt that our conditional use permit process worked. But as we debated that, your predecessors said that let's see what happens. And when we get to about 20 short-term rentals, then I think we need to really look at regulations. As you learned in October at your October city council meeting, we're near that. I believe we're at 19. So we're at 19. So we're coming up on 20. And the direction to this office, to my firm, was to develop a moratorium that would allow us to put a pause on everything and work during the pause period to create permanent regulations. So just to let you know how the moratorium process works, the moratorium can be effective for up to 2 years. The way the timing works is that we can only have up to 45 days if you approve this ordinance tonight, which means we would have to come back by, I believe, our first meeting in March to extend the ordinance. If you choose to extend the ordinance, you can extend it up to the 1-year mark, technically 10 months and 15 days. So you can extend the ordinance at our March meeting up to the 1-year period. And then before that 1-year period runs, you can extend it for 1 additional year. So there may be future meetings in which you have to extend, or you may consider extending this. Tonight, we can only do this for 45 days.
But you could terminate it any time during that
Or you could just let it expire.
10-month period.
Yeah, correct. The idea behind the moratorium is to give you space. And we can't use the moratorium to just completely shut things down. It really is a device that was put into the planning and zoning law, which governs all of our state statutes for planning and zoning. It was designed to give us space to develop regulations. So the 2-year period, if you go up to that amount or any amount, lesser amount you choose, really is about studying and then developing permanent ordinance, which our office is very happy to be the drafter for. We obviously want your input, but we will take your direction and put that into an ordinance. But tonight is the first step. And tonight is simply what's called an urgency ordinance or a moratorium ordinance. So just so you know, you are finding that the public health, safety, and welfare requires this step. You don't, and I think you had a pretty spirited discussion at your October meeting in which you discussed some of this. You did have one, I believe you had two applications that evening, and you looked at locations. In particular, I think it was right down here on Main Street that you were looking at, and you were very concerned about that location. So you can make, in my view, you can make these findings. These are legally defensible findings. They are legislative findings, meaning you don't have to justify them with courtroom evidence. You've, I think, developed enough of a record from your previous discussions and consideration that you can make the findings. Whether you choose to do that is up to you. But 4/5 of you must vote in favor. So a simple majority will not carry. This is an urgency ordinance. It will take effect literally the moment you adopt the ordinance. So starting tomorrow, if someone comes in with an application for a CUP, we're going to have to tell them, I'm sorry, we have a moratorium. We can't process this until the moratorium expires. So with that, that's, yes.
If that
Mayor.
happens, can we put them in a queue?
Yes.
or-
That's, was
and
my
then
question.
When
Well,
when the moratorium
you-
is lifted, we can go back to them
L-
and that.
To the applicants who have submitted paperwork during the moratorium.
So the answer is yes. I do want to clarify though, that as this ordinance is drafted, it says the city shall not receive, accept, process, or approve. So the way this is written is it's very broad. My preference would be that you keep it that way because whatever regulations you enact
Right.
are going to be binding. And so someone comes and says, I want to do it this way, and here's how I want to do it. But what they want to do ultimately doesn't align with the permanent
The new
ordinance you create. So what I would suggest is if you keep the language as it's written, you can just say, we'll informally accept what you have. You know, and staff can look at it and give them some feedback, but we can't officially process it. So I would recommend that we not take an application fee. That if they want to deliver it to us, we'll say, we'll create a file so
Sure.
that it's here. And then what I would suggest then is we say, look, you should be involved. If you're going to apply, you ought to be coming to the meetings when we consider this. You ought to provide input. So staff can do it informally, but I would recommend we keep this language.
So with that language,
Allow you to do it.
Claire said a queue. We're not keeping it in order that you're first, second, third.
No,
No.
yeah, yes, and that would be another thing is that we're not, if you set a limit that we're only going to allow 10 more and you have, 15 people that do this, you're not not like the concert where you go and get the
Right.
wristband if you wait, 12 hours before,
Yeah.
the venue opens. We're not going to have that kind of system. So, obviously this is for you to debate tonight, but I just want to emphasize it is a 4/5 vote. Technically, it's a public hearing. This gentleman here is free to comment. Anyone, I don't see anyone else. We don't have two-way participation, but you do need to open a public hearing technically and then close a public hearing before you deliberate and vote. So that's my presentation.
Copy that. Before I open the public hearing, if the council has just questions of staff, we're not debating it, but just any points for clarification on the staff report, go ahead and shoot.
I have a question. And
The only clarification, and I talked with Pam on the staff report, on the top of page 2, on the last sentence in that top paragraph, it says, without an extension, the initial moratorium would expire on December 18th, 2025.
it's going to be a little tough to meet that date.
So,
Oh,
and I spoke with Pam that if- to
correct.
have that corrected, even though I think it's in the staff report, not the
Yes, so that,
ordinance.
and I apologize that staff report reflects my submission back in, I believe.
I figured that
November.
was from back in October.
Correct.
But I think the ordinance doesn't have that.
The ordinance does not. Yes, the ordinance would, let me just go to the ordinance, section 5, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon adoption by at least 4/5 vote and shall be in effect for 45 days from the date of adoption.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
January
Pam-
20.
Pam and I went over that.
Yeah,
I just
so-
want to clarify. that.
Yes, no, Councilmember Cirque, you're 100% correct. The ordinance is fine. The staff report is a little bit outdated.
I just wanted to add, this all looks fine and it makes sense to me. The questions that I'm left with are, I think it would be important, maybe even tonight, to talk about what is our general thought in terms of timing to get this thing going. So when people start showing up, we have an answer. Hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're shooting for this much time, and we're hopeful to have something in place by X, Y, Z.
I think that we can do that during our discussion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open the public hearing at this point.
Okay?
Good evening, but can you hear me? Byron Damiani, I'm not hearing myself. I appreciate you laying out the timeline, and that was kind of one of the questions I had. Is there a goal as far as when they would like to have a completing ordinance done approximately, or not to put you on the spot because you're just beginning it? And also, is it something that you would send through to Planning Commission to review before it has public comment, since they're the ones who will have to implement it? And that's really all I was asking about that.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer those questions. So yes, the permanent ordinance would have to go to planning commission because it would be engrafted into the zoning code. And so the zoning procedure requires, as you guys know, planning commission recommendation, then it comes to you for approval. So yes, Mr. Damiani, there would be planning commission, and that could be something, so just as far as how to actually do this, the way it was done before is we had, I think, a working group, a subcommittee. I believe it was Councilmember Peters, maybe Councilmember Rianda. I forget the two that I was working.
Dad and Robin.
It was your father. Yes, it was Councilmember Murphy and Councilmember Peters. So that should be something you can give direction on tonight. Is, do you want to have a subcommittee work with Aaron, our planner, Tom, myself, and kind of develop something and then send it to the planning commission for review? Other situations, I've seen councils just delegate it entirely to the planning commission and say, you guys go do this. My recommendation would be that you guys should be involved in it and send it to them. Just knowing how the city works, that's probably going to be more efficient. But I'm happy to roll up my sleeves and draft. I mean, you don't need to like get into my queue. We'll move this forward.
I have a interest only because at the Cal Cities Conference, I attended a really informative session on that and have some information to share, with you and Aaron, and would like to be involved with that.
We'll get to that. There's only one member of the public. Yeah, we're still in the public hearing. To clarify, Byron, though, I believe you said that the planning commission would get it to review before it went to the public, and that's not the case. That, like everything else we get, the planning commission would get it in their agenda and it would be public at that point, but just as a draft. So whether it goes through us to them or whatever else, it would be a very public process the whole way through. Did you have any other questions? Nope. Okay. I'd hear a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So let's bring it back to our discussion. Dan wanted to talk about a timeline. Julia has interest in a ad hoc if we're going to do that. Susan and Jim, did you have something you want to address?
I have a couple questions for Derek, but if I don't, I can wait.
It's your questions,
Yeah.
Jim.
Okay,
These
so
seem like
in
process things.
that period, way back when we failed to create an ordinance, and now, I would imagine that a lot of cities that didn't have ordinances or have adopted ordinance during that time period. So I'm hoping that we can sort of minimize what you have to do by using something that's working well somewhere else. And then the next part of my question is, I believe there been some court challenges, at least at South Lake Tahoe, I remember reading about, that where their ordinance was challenged in court. And I'm wondering if any court rulings are going to guide us in what we draft as an ordinance.
Yeah, I follow appellate decisions, as they come out. I don't have clarity, I'm like really crystal clear clarity on all the ins and outs. I do understand that the general power of cities and counties to adopt these ordinances exists. There may be specific applications we'd have to avoid. And I will hone in and make sure that,
We don't step on a landmine.
yeah, and then, you could look at places like Nevada City, Grass Valley, Murphy's, places that have, towns where you have people coming in for, wine bars and, and Main Street experiences. So, especially in Northern California. So we did do a little bit of that, if I recall, with, when you were on count previously with
I'm
your
just thinking
peers.
there might be a better, a larger sample of, that we can draw on.
Yes, I'm sure there
Okay.
are.
Thank you.
So end of last year, Aaron and I looked at 3 or 4 new ones and we're trying to abstract those. So in February, again, the idea would be to give you guys 2 or 3 options on different aspects of what an ordinance could be. Like, do we limit or not limit? How? What's a fair process for people applying? Can they, what if they stop renting out? What happens? Do they lose their license? So that was the idea in
Right.
the early February discussion, would be to share some of those things with you guys and get your feedback on, we like this, we don't like that. Let's hear more about this kind of thing.
My only other comment, and I know we're going to talk about it in the timeline, but my only other comment would be that we need to move quickly, in my opinion, and not drag this out. And certainly not up to 2 years, which would be allowed under the maximum. Worst case scenario.
Then during the moratorium, and all the staff has to say is we can't accept the application right now, but the staff doesn't have to keep a waiting list or call anybody. It would be up to potential property owners to follow what the city's doing, and then they come back in and the moratorium's over. That
Well-
staff doesn't have to.
Why not have the staff make a list of names and just notify anybody that, we now have an ordinance in our processing applications?
Well, I think staff should do that if we get people who want to come in and they want to develop a short-term rental. We should take a list, give them notice, and yes, when we have when we
Have a new ordinance in
when we
place.
have a new ordinance and we're onboarding it, we should give them notifications.
Yep.
Yeah.
And encourage them to be part of the process, like
Yes.
you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Susan, did you have any input before we go back to these guys? Okay. I just wanted to add that, I agree with Jim. I don't want it to take a long time. I don't think it's the intention of the council or the public to end these. We just want to prevent an application from going before a body, which has been happening for a while, without any real clear definition of, what's acceptable and what's not. But we did in the October meeting, I think, give pretty clear direction on, I believe it was 3 things that were important to us. And it was maximum capacity for them, density, and one other. Can anybody help me out here?
Location? As it relates to historical, like the actual situation that arose? I'm not sure.
We could go back, but my point was, I think, there's pretty clear direction given, and I think with what we had started with, what Derek already has, it shouldn't be too terribly painful, long of a process.
Right. So to that end, I'll just throw out for council's consideration some timeline, and, I was thinking, what if we said the initial draft is due in 120 days with the goal of having the final new ordinance in place through the public process and the planning commission within 6 months, up to 1 year maximum. Clarify all this. And then tonight, if you put together an ad hoc committee, then staff has something to tell people as they walk in, and we all know what are the goals, and you know, we don't have all the specifics yet, but at least we have a basic timeline. So I just throw that out there for your consideration.
I'd like to see
what-
a more aggressive timeline.
I was also thinking, is this something that we can get done by May? So we're ready for our summer vacation period in town.
I don't know, a
Is that-
lot of, you know, in my experience here, trying to do something real quick, there's so many things that can go wrong in terms of people's availability, all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted something that is reasonable, that we absolutely can say, it's not going to be any later than this. And I'm not opposed if Derek, yeah, I think Derek's going to be a big player in this. I think Aaron is going to be a player in this. So we'll need commitments from them with whatever timeline we propose and accept tonight.
Yeah, and Julia, even if we wrapped up the ordinance by May, if someone wanted to open a short-term rental by summer, they'd still have to go through the process and they'd miss out
No,
on
I
summer
think
anyway.
At least though, we could give that as a, since it's like, it comes up right when kind of the peak of when our short-term rentals are going to be in demand.
Well, our existing short-term rentals are out there and available.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
I'm just and I don't want expediency at the cost of effectiveness.
And I think
That-
that summer's actually the slowest time, and it's more like spring, fall, winter, and then summer slowest.
Oh.
My experience,
And
yeah.
you guys could have a stated timeline, but like Julia just said, it's really going to be up to you guys. And if you take longer, you take longer.
Yeah, or if you
Yeah.
do it faster, you can, you know, you can beat the timeline, but I just want to emphasize
Well,
not just sitting on it. Keep it.
no, the one thing I did learn from the feedback that was shared in the session at the Cal Cities conference is to do it right the first time. And for those that are coming up with, you know, their initial
Mhm.
ordinances, without splitting hairs. And because you could get really caught up in a lot of weeds.
Yep.
it-
We could take a great big chunk of the process out in February, you know, when you bring us some ideas. Would it be helpful to have some ad hoc folks join you before then, so we can make sure you get some of the council input before you bring it to the council?
I think it's kind of up to you guys. You know, again, I try to meet with all of you and brief you on kind of what we're working on.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, do you guys already have start, or could we jump in now?
Yes and yes.
Okay. Well, then maybe we ought to do that tonight. And
Set the timeline.
whoever, or assign a ad hoc committee and have them get together with Tom and Aaron prior to a February meeting where they bring us something. And, you know, hopefully
I-
it wouldn't take much longer from there.
Yeah, I mean, that packet is due next week, so it's pretty quick.
I think that staff should put together a draft. I mean, we already have something down on paper, and then bring in the ad hoc committee for review and input, but
Yeah, I mean, either way, we can meet with an ad hoc next week, or you could wait till after the first meeting in February, February 2nd, I think.
Right, February 2nd is the first meeting. So to expect something by then
I was a little,
doesn't seem reasonable to me. That would be thoughtful and give people time to consider all past meetings and all the input that they've heard. Maybe the second meeting. Do you,
I also think that gives time for more public awareness.
You're not bringing us a draft, though. You're bringing us just ideas of the types of things that we're going to have to consider.
Right, it's going to be kind of an information
Okay.
session, so maybe what you do is wait till that meeting, let everybody contribute their ideas, and then maybe form an ad hoc at that meeting.
yeah,
I wanted to have it on the record too. I think, with regard to the considerations, it would be good to look at the effect on the long-term rental market and how that affects our demographic and allows us to have renters as part of the community.
Absolutely, Susan. I think that's where we ended with that. I think that was a concern of everyone's, and that's why some sort of cap in place would be set.
And
Yeah, I just went on.
it's a big stumbling block. It's a area of contention.
Right. Tom, are you suggesting the first or second meeting in February, you would be able to bring us something substantive enough for us to provide meaningful feedback and assign an ad hoc to join you
Yeah,
then?
I'm saying at that first meeting, part of that meeting could be you guys appointing an ad hoc committee.
Based on some information, and you'll provide information based on where you think you're going and what you're doing?
Again, our goal is to provide a couple of options
Uh-huh.
in each kind of parameter.
Yeah.
So we came up with 3 or 4 different parameters. And
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
Does anyone on the council feel that we need to set a formal timeline? We've never done that I'm aware of, but I think we all have a goal that we've discussed.
Yeah, and if, this is happening at the next meeting, that's as expeditious as is
Just-
possible.
Was it the
Wanna be
next
clear,
meeting or
you-
the second meeting?
You do need to, if you're going to extend it past 45 days, you'd have to do that at your March 3rd
Right.
meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that we have only 2 more meetings before that meeting.
right.
Official regular meetings.
You
I
bet.
think we'd certainly have to do
Gonna have
that
to extend
because it'll have to go to planning commission and whatever else. But if we extend it the full year, we don't have to take the full year.
Correct,
We could end it at any time.
correct.
Anything from the public? Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd hear a motion to approve and to waive the first reading.
Yep, we do a roll call.
You're not waiving the first reading, you're actually enacting the ordinance. So the motion would be to enact the ordinance or approve the ordinance.
Okay, the agenda says introduce and waive the first and final readings by substitution of the title
Okay.
and adopt,
That's fair, that's fair.
okay,
that's fair.
ordinance.
Yeah. I'm sorry, yeah, no, the city clerk is correct about that, that's correct.
I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Pam, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Again, this is a 4/5 vote requirement.
Okay. Motion maker, Vice Mayor Sir,
Yes.
second by Councilmember Reardon.
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 9 on the administrative agenda is the city council reorganization. This is the time of year that the council conducts its mayoral reorganization. I've been serving as mayor. Julia Sirk has been serving as vice mayor. I'd like to invite comments from the public on the mayor and vice mayor election. Hearing none, comments from council members?
I think we're lucky that, Claire, that you're in that seat, and Julia, grateful that you're in that seat. And from my perspective, I would, unless somebody else has something else in mind, I would move to continue status quo in those 2 positions.
I agree.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second it and add, I think continuity is really good to have. And I want to compliment Claire on the job that she's done and Julia as vice mayor. So I would support that motion wholeheartedly.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. If there are any other nominations? Not hearing any. Can you do a roll call vote, please, Pam?
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sirk,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Or you might say, aye, aye, aye.
Thank you guys for the nice words.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
it's
thank
an
you.
honor and a pleasure. And it is, every single one of the five of us are responsible for the relationship we all have beyond civility, but the respect and um, we all have the same goal, which is doing our best for Sutter Creek. And I appreciate you all.
And thank you for your leadership.
Okay, we have to do this in two, though. We can't do it with the full status quo. So I'd like to entertain or I'd like to ask for a nomination for vice mayor.
Oh, okay. I'll nominate Julia Sirk as the vice mayor.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Can you do a roll call vote, please, Pam?
Will do. Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Councilmember Reardon,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cirque.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. And on to the committee assignments part of our reorganization. The last few years, what I've done is send everybody a draft after collecting your feedback. This year's draft was really the exact same thing as last year, and I didn't get any feedback, so that's what's published in the agenda. But I'd open it up if there's any other comments before we take a vote to approve it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'd like to at least open up the possibility of accepting. Dan has, I think, 3 or 4 responsibilities or committee member to attend. And with losing ACRA, that takes a big chunk of my attention and focus that I have now available. So in talking with Dan, I'd like to know if I'm offering to see if I can't maybe take at least one of your.
Yeah, the visitor center and or lodging business district, Julia, would be terrific, whichever ones you'd be willing to
Visitor
take.
Center would.
Yep.
That would be great. Well, that,
Any other changes for you guys?
No changes, but since Byron's here, could you talk about Sutter Creek's role on LAFCO for the upcoming year? Yeah, are we just clarifying?
Rotating in or out?
You said,
About commissioners or about LAFCO generally?
no, just Sutter Creek. Am I now a permanent member of the
Yes.
the board?
So,
Okay.
so I'm sorry.
I was alternate previously.
Yes, we have a city rotation schedule for LAFCO because we have 5 cities, but only 2 city seats. So we have 2 regular members from the city, and then we have an alternate member. Sutter Creek has been in the alternate member position for the last year, but Sutter Creek now, due to the rotation, is now a regular commissioner in that situation. The distinction from your perspective is if both of the city council representatives are there, the alternate does not vote. The vote for the alternate would only be if they're filling in for one of the city commissioner members who is not there. So Jim will be a regular voting member for all of the meetings that he attends. If he's not able to be there, and the alternate, which is now the city of Ione, would stand in his place and could vote on the commission. So it's basically a 1-year term, but the cities stay in their positions for 2 years at a time. So he will be in that position for 2 years. Then the city of Sutter Creek would move up one more step to city position number 1. Right now they're number 2. So the city would be on the commission for 2 more years as a regular member after that. Then the city would rotate off and they'll be off the commission entirely. So, and I'm happy to provide you with a rotation schedule if you'd like to have that just for your benefits.
I think I have one, and I believe I just got a message from the county that there's a seat up and they needed the city select committee to meet.
Is the one, I'm sorry?
There was a LAFCO position open and they needed the city select committee to meet and approve a member. I don't recall. I'd have to go back and look. No, okay.
Now is we would have Jackson, Sutter Creek are the two members, and then Ione is the alternate member for that. So Amador City just went off. They're going to be off for 4 years, and Plymouth is not on right now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks for being here. That was handy.
Thank you.
I had one quick question, and you have yet to get to it on your administrative agenda, but can you take questions on your administrative agenda when we get to an item? I had a question on letter C when you get to it.
Oh, we're going to open that in just a minute. Yeah. So let's get this off the table. Thank you. Okay. Pam, can we make a motion with the change that Julia and Dan requested?
Yes.
Thanks.
If so, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the city council assignments for the year 2026 with the change of Julia taking over the visitor center for me. Everything else remains the same.
Second.
Pam, can you do a vote? Roll call, please.
Motion maker, Commissioner Reardon.
Aye.
Second is Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cirque,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we're on item C, public safety budget sustainability. We're going to take a staff report, Byron, before we have questions, but I will open it up to the public.
Yeah, so tonight we're basically asking the council to authorize me to work with our police chief and present a formal proposal to Amador City to provide police services. As you guys know, we've had our ad hoc finance committee meet for many months last year. We really identified that our police department is run very efficiently. There's not a lot of or any expenses that would really change the financial picture. And we, as a committee, started to focus on the revenue side. Amador City gets a COPS grant like any other city, and they're currently using that to pay for county police services. They're paying about $100,000 a year. As we looked at the situation, we think we can provide them more responsive services without adding any additional staff or equipment. So we're looking at potentially $100,000 of revenue that could help fund our police department. That would represent 10% of our annual police budget. I think I mentioned in the report, I met with Gary Redmond at the end of last year to tell him we were contemplating this. $100,000 is about 0.5% of his annual budget. We had a friendly conversation. I would say he said he would fight us on this, but he understood where I was coming from. The county has a full range of services. They have detectives, they have SWAT. I think what we have to offer is community policing. Our officers will patrol Amador City every day. They'll extend their walking beat. They walk our downtown, they will walk their downtown, and we'd be available for events that they have if they needed police service. I did talk to individual Amador City council members, and they had a discussion at a council meeting at the end of last year. I think everybody was interested. And so again, as a concept, they were supportive. And so the chief and I have been kind of working out a term sheet, and I just wanted to kind of update you guys and make sure I had, your blessings to kind of move forward with this and see if it's something that, we could propose that would go to the Amador City Council and they would have to adopt it.
Thanks, Tom. So it's true, the work that we did last year identified, revenue as an opportunity to continue to fund our local police department. In addition, Tom, I think in your report, you did mention, and you just reminded us that you met with Gary Redmond about the possibility also that the council has asked you to look into is what would it cost for the county to do this? Not that we're, saying that's what we want to do, but we need to get that information. And we're still working on that, and we're waiting for proposals from them. So my question would be how or if this moving forward now might be impacted by the result of those discussions that we're having with the county.
Are you saying we get a different price because we're having this?
No,
discussion?
we're actually, we're like this. We're making movement in generating additional revenue. And we're also continuing to talk with the county about potential models and what it would cost to save money if we went a different way with our policing. We haven't bottomed out on that yet. Since we haven't, I'm wondering, does moving on this now, how might that be impacted? I can't see the future. I don't know what's going to happen or not happen. But that's what I'm wondering
I
about.
would say let those two things run in parallel.
Uh-huh.
So as you know, council directed me, I did ask for a kind of written proposal. He has kind of been expressed verbally. He also expressed again verbally that if we expected the same kind of service that we have today, it would likely cost more. And so I think, you guys know how quickly governments move. I think we'll have the opportunity to discuss things with Amador City and see if these proposals come in.
Right. But I think the last meeting, Susan had mentioned, and we had mentioned to you about, we know that the existing level would cost more, but we also said, well, what if it were like something like the Plymouth model? And it's my understanding that Gary is also preparing a proposal for a model like that.
Yep.
It's that model that we don't know what the answer is yet, or if we have interest in that or not. So are you still comfortable with going in parallel with?
Yeah, I am. And
Okay.
Again, anything that was agreed to would come back to you guys as well. So again, I feel like we have time
Yeah.
and we can have those discussions.
Good. I just want to make sure we're aware of everything that's going on.
Has this discussion also included our own police chief in agreeing that their breadth of, territory that's going to be under the responsibility is now going to grow? Have they been part of this
Yeah.
discussion?
Jim, you mean?
Jim, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And he doesn't seem any problem?
No, and like I said in the report, I mean, Amador Cities would be about 6% of Sutter Creek, right, in terms of population, and it's adjacent. So we really feel like we could cover it with our existing staff. If we had to hire additional headcount, it wouldn't make sense financially.
No. Okay.
Also, though, just to be clear, Sheriff Redmond expressed to me that or told me that our dispatching fees would also go up. So we wouldn't necessarily see the whole $100,000 added to our budget. There would be a net amount added, would be the $100,000 less the increase in dispatch fees.
It also mentions in here insurance, Jim, on the same line. I'm
Okay.
just jumping in because it's the
Sure.
same.
Sure,
Yeah.
it's to cover, yeah.
I mean, there are other costs.
Yep. So
It's
I
not just
did,
going to be
I did get some feedback from our RMA. I don't think it will cost us anything more. There will be some contractual terms legally with Amador City. Yeah, but they came back.
I
with
guess
some
the point
details.
is, we need to look at all those
Yep.
to make an informed decision whether it's worth it or not. That's all.
On the RMA note though, that's the number I've been looking for. All of these conversations when I've been asking when we had the police sustainability ad hoc committee, how much does it cost insurance wise to have a police force? That's what I was inquiring. So looks like it exists. This does say looking at a 3-year contract though. So back to Dan's point, if we're wanting to consider all of the options for models of policing, because as you said, the ad hoc committee did determine that there's no more money we can save operating our police force as it is, but long-term, it's not sustainable. Then why would we think of entering a 3-year contract before we have all of the data to consider would be my concern. And then also,
Do you want to answer? I mean, so again, adding 10% to the budget, I think makes it sustainable.
so you're saying it would be, back to Dan's question, it isn't, if we did this for 3 years, then we wouldn't any longer be looking at other options?
Yeah, I think we have to make a decision. And if we went the other way, that would be a decision as well. And that would be a very difficult decision to undo.
Well,
Um,
that was my point of bringing it up, Tom,
Right.
is that we haven't made that decision yet.
Correct.
And I'll speak for myself. I don't want to get backed into a corner where we've made a deal and now there's nothing to talk about for at least 3 more years because we haven't bottomed out on the full investigation options in terms of what other kind of policing might serve the city
Right.
and still save,
So what I'm suggesting is we push forward on both paths, right? And then make a decision. But, if
will we
if
have
we
all,
can't come to an agreement with Amador City, then we know that that's not going to work, right? But we need to get to like the next level of detail. And we'll also get these proposals from the county.
right?
Um,
Did Gary give you any idea when we might expect?
I asked him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
He did not give me a date. He said he's actively working on it.
Okay.
Is that 2 different proposals from the sheriff or just the one for the same services that we have now?
I think it would be 2 different ones.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my phone. I somehow misplaced that stack, so I'm looking at the agenda. In the letter to the city, it pointed out, as it should, that you'd have to make certain that, we were hearing their specific concerns. I know from both people serving on the council now in Amador City and who did before and people that live there, that one of their main concerns and one of their biggest issues they had with sheriff coverage so far is speeding, is people zooming down the hill into the city. If that's their main priority, I would, I'm not certain that our model would help them anymore with that. And that would be a concern, but we would certainly need to let them know that.
Claire, are you thinking about like the road back here with the speeding situation that we have currently that right here in our own town that
Yeah, I
continues to pop
know,
up?
one of the biggest concerns they have for public safety in Amador City is speeding. And, we've had our own issues with that, Gopher Flat, Spanish Street, Sutter Hill Road. And, it's been explained with one person on duty at a time. It's difficult to affect traffic in that way. And I don't see why that would be any different for our neighbors down the road
Mm.
if we were patrolling with one person.
I also,
It would be more,
along that, go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Would that, I could see the benefit financially gained, but up to $100,000. So $100,000 isn't necessarily the accurate full amount. It could be less than.
So, this is
So that's number one.
This is a situation over time. So the COPS grant amount goes up year to year. Our dispatch costs go up year to year right now, right? Regardless.
But when it says up to $100,000.
That would be, in the immediate term. But my point is, it is a substantial amount of revenue to our police budget that we don't have today. It would, it's not going to stay frozen in time. Our costs go up over time. Our revenue would go up over time. And that would be part of the discussion with Amador City.
Could it be less than $100,000 the first year around?
I don't see why it would. That's what they're paying the county. You know,
Okay.
they don't think they expect to pay us less.
My other concern a little bit with what Jim and Claire were talking about, you know, trying to address Amador City's needs with our staff when we have those same issues that are still issues with us. So are we diminishing our coverage with our own police department and thinning ourselves too thin by
Well,
saying,
I mean,
okay, well, but wait.
yeah.
It's, so we have these issues here in Sutter Creek and we feel, well, I should say, I'll speak for myself, that aren't fully covered. You know, speeding, the Gopher Flat issues, the back road, these are everyday things. So will those be even in a worse state if we take on Amador City and another jurisdiction?
So
We'll
I'm
have
hearing-
less coverage in our area.
So, Councilmember, hearing different perspectives from all of you. If we were going to go to the county in a Plymouth model, we would have even less service than we have
That's the
today.
point I was going to make.
So, you know, it's one hand you want more enforcement, more coverage, which I think adding to the scale, adding more revenue, a little bit more coverage area, kind of goes that direction. Versus if it's purely financial, then you're talking about a lower level of service, not a higher level of service.
How will we get better service within our own city? I'm playing a little bit of devil's
Sure.
advocate because I see some benefit to this.
I mean, we
But
would-
on the flip
would at
side,
least-
are we thinning ourselves out too thin, you know, over issues that we aren't really being covered now?
So again, I think we're talking about 170, 180 people. So yes, there's a little bit of spread, but we would be maintaining our community kind of focused police department that you guys oversee.
Yeah, and
Uh,
taking some of the financial burden off, it seems to me like it could work. I mean, I don't think there's like a high level of crime there. Certainly, Claire, with regard to what you said on the speeding, the sheriff does sit on that stretch of highway in between here and Amador City quite frequently enough that you think that they might be there when you come down there. At least I do, having lived there.
So again, we're not trying to make a decision tonight, right? We're just trying to move the ball forward. And I would,
Pursue talks with Amador City.
right, and we would bring it back. You guys would be the deciding body. So I just want to make sure that's clear. I know I sound like I'm pushing for one direction.
Right.
What I'm really pushing for is to keep all the avenues open right now.
Right. And I think if that's where we are, it's just, you hear our concerns, it's tricky for a number of reasons. But I think, and I'll speak for myself, I absolutely support the idea of moving it forward. You know, let's check it out, let's find out. And as we get closer on, with everything we're studying, we'll bring that back and have further discussions about it.
Yeah, I really appreciate having all of these things on the table and researching it fully.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion.
Oh, we're going to open it up to the public. I think Jim still had something to say.
Well, I'm going to take this time. I'd like to go on the record to say that to give our police department show our appreciation. I think they do a very good job. They're dedicated and loyal. But as a council, we have a fiduciary responsibility to consider, you know, how do we keep a police department operating in the long term. And so we do have this responsibility to look at all the options that are available to us. But my first preference would be to keep our own police department, if we can.
In terms of what you were saying earlier, Jim, about the Plymouth model being a lesser level of service, it's a different level of service. It's absolutely not the community policing that, you know, Tom just mentioned that we have and that we know and that, you know, we would be offering to Amador City. But there, you know, just as Tom said, the sheriff's going to pitch what they offer, you know, so we We just have to be, I don't want to be, the letter to Amador City put me a little off guard because I felt, and again, it's disappeared off my phone. You know, it said that we are committed as a city to maintaining our community policing. And we're looking at we just want to look. We just want to have all the options on the table so we could do our due diligence and see, make the best decision to make sure that Sutter Creek is getting what it needs and paying for what it gets. And I feel like we're a little over our skis making commitments at this point before we have all of that data. If we're just going further with this to have some proposal, so it's one of the options we can look at, that's fine with me. But I got a little startled. It seemed like there was more resolution than I feel that we've already had.
So I don't know if this is the paragraph you're referring to. I got the letter up on the screen. And again, this was a kind of, this letter was meant to show what would be the benefit to them, what would be the benefit to us, and really say that this could be a win-win.
Yeah, there you go, that Sutter Creek deeply values maintain, up.
Right here, right?
Oh, yeah. We believe that local control allows for a higher level of community-oriented policing, certainly community-oriented, but you know, it feels like a decision has been made there.
But
And
the next sentence, however, like many communities, were focused on long-term fiscal responsibility. So I don't feel like we were really committing one way or the other. I think we were trying to lay it out.
well, certainly, and we've been having all of these discussions openly and in the public, and you know, Amador City's hearing that too. I just wanted to make certain that we weren't boxing ourselves into a corner where if we do find another model, if it's not the Plymouth model, if the county wants to talk to us about some sort of hybrid thing or with Jackson or, you know, any other thing, we're not stuck for $100,000.
Right.
Couldn't any agreement, or couldn't an agreement with Amador City include language that addresses those concerns? Derek?
I would think that if and when, Jim, it would absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we can develop protections and other, it's really a policy level discussion.
Yeah.
It's really a policy level discussion now. I mean, we will work in protections and other things into the agreement that I would draft.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're a long ways from having even getting to that point, but I'm just saying, if you got to that point, you could address those concerns and, you know, what would happen if this happens and
Exactly.
what happens if that happens. And so.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be on the hook for $100,000 that we're going to fork out, because no, you write that into any agreement that you might come to.
Sure, it wasn't the $100,000 being on the line as much as losing our ability to make the best decision for $100,000 is what I don't want to happen. That makes sense.
Okay.
Can I open it up to the public?
Yeah, you bet.
Well, I think you've probably answered one of my questions already, because I was curious whether this will just be at cost or if it's anticipated to bring in revenue. And obviously everyone's talking about revenue. So the idea is that there would be something that's by providing this service would generate revenue for the city. So my question would be whether that would be used to subsidize or expand our police services, or it's simply general fund money that could be, it's general fund, but are you going to earmark it for anything in particular? Or it's just more revenue for the city. And that's a policy decision. You know, obviously the council has to make at some point what they want to do with that. But I did want to bring up one other question, and maybe Derek could look at this. I don't know if it applies to municipalities, but I know years ago, I was drafting contracts when we were sending a lot of people out of state to private prisons. And a current legislature can't bind a future legislature. So there were provisions that we put in the contracts saying that if a future legislature decides that this is no longer a prioritized or appropriate use of funds, they could terminate the contract. And it's not a breach of contract, and it wasn't an illegal provision for them to put that in there, because there's a later determination by another body that this is not going to work. So they were able to cancel the contract under those conditions. So
Okay, thank you.
that's it.
So we don't have a vote on here, right? We're just had a discussion to give you authorization, direction to staff. Is that right?
I think I'd like to know, I think you should take a vote to, like you said, give us the authority to engage with Amador City.
Sure. Well, I would move to authorize the
You're making a
engagement.
motion?
Make a motion to authorize the engagement as discussed tonight.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Pam?
Motion maker,
Aye.
Councilmember New. Second, Vice Mayor Cert,
Aye.
Councilmember Swift,
Aye.
Councilmember Feist,
Aye.
Mayor Gunselman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, that takes us to mayor and council member reports. Susan?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report, but I did find an opportunity that I thought might be of interest to you all. The Vintners Association, I guess, had solicited advertisers in the Vintner map, and I hadn't seen anything come across with regard to that, but it was mentioned in the meeting last time that they hadn't had any replies, and I thought that, I don't unfortunately have the dollar figure, but I thought that might be of interest to be in the map this for the city of Sutter Creek. And then I would imagine it would be on the website as well.
Jim?
No.
We'll go down the line.
You know, I will. I just found out. Was some discussion, has been discussion about renewing our siren system that we used to have. That was there was no radio dispatching for the firemen. It was just, the siren went off in the middle of the night and everybody jumped out of bed and went down to the firehouse. But so there was some discussion, maybe about Auburn. Were you in on that, about that they had initiated put in an alarm system?
Rings a bell.
Well, that didn't happen. So what I did find out was that Auburn was directed to look at it, and it was going to cost $1 million. So Auburn does not have one. And so Dominic and I were planning on going over to Auburn and kind of looking at what they had done, but they haven't done it. So that trip is off the table. But we're still looking or considering the feasibility for Sutter Creek to reinstitute an alarm. That's all I have.
Thanks for working on that, Jim. Julia?
Claire, can I make a quick comment? I need to revise. It is no longer the Amador Vintners Association. It's the Heritage Wine District.
Julia?
Well, since ACRA has now disbanded, Tom and I are going to meet in the morning and talk about recreation organizers here for our community. Phoebe, the pool manager for the city of Jackson, who does a wonderful, she's outstanding job, is finally able, Tom and I were both trying to reach out to her, and she finally responded back and agreed to take on the Sutter Creek pool along with the Jackson pool. So that's great news.
Good news.
Very
Thank you.
good.
That's really
Thank
good
you.
news. We had an air quality board meeting today. Clarification on the bin. It's due to the fact that Republic increased its rates beyond the budget that the air board or the office could afford. So that's why they limited. So Republic is now paying for the month of December, January, and February for the community. And we were Supervisor Cornell was reminded that this bin does not just serve Sutter Creek, but it serves pretty much Jackson, Plymouth, and Ione. So it's not just Sutter Creek. But anyway, the bottom line is that it's nice to have the bid back with support, and they feel by the next time around, hopefully more funding will come from the state and we can continue on a 12-month basis. But the best news is that we'll be moving forward. And Tom, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about your recreation picking up. You had somebody volunteer to pick up some recreation organization here.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at several things. So the lifeguard plan, potentially have a volunteer who would continue the adult basketball league in the spring. And the city would have to be the kind of fiduciary agent, collect the fees, pay out the refs, that kind of thing. And we're also looking at some private companies that might run camps in the summer, kind of same kind of deal that the city would advertise them. I think we'd like to be a little more hands-off, where we just kind of vet some people and then recommend them. So
There might be some church groups or something too that
yeah,
do something.
just trying to see what we can do without staff, basically.
Great.
Yeah.
Dan? Oh, are you done, Julia?
I'm done.
Dan?
So I'm looking forward to meeting with Mason. I think we're meeting tomorrow to review some of the financial reports and see if there's an opportunity to make those a little more user-friendly. I think he may be meeting with each of the council members who have an interest in doing that. So hopefully together with our input, we can continue to, make these reports more beneficial for our needs. Tom, in addition, I wanted to let you know that I had a conversation with one of the fellows who's got a hangar up at the airport. And he's, invites you to come up to their group and just kind of talk about the kind of things you have in mind at some point for economic development opportunities. He said having some kind of relationship with Sutter Creek would be fabulous because, we're not taking advantage of that airport. And, people would love to fly in here and come down to Sutter Creek and, spend money and do all that kind of thing. So he suggested just having an informal conversation just to meet some of the people, and I can help you get
Appreciate
that
that.
scheduled. Happy to do that. And then with the ACTC money on the old Bowers Avenue deal, we're still waiting to hear back from them about because I had met with John Gedney a couple of weeks ago after everybody had met about this issue, and he was all pumped up and feeling really good. Derek, he sounded like it was imminent. The language is done and everybody's happy. And so I came back and reported to Tom, and I was surprised that you all still hadn't heard anything from them. So I'll continue to move that forward on my end, and it seems, at least according to John, that they're ready. They've got some language for us. So I look forward to hearing what that might be. And I think that's it from my end.
Okay, for me, there was notice put out by the Rancheria for one of their next grant cycles, and this one is for parks. Frank Cunha reached out to me to see if it might be an opportunity for Miners Bend to get a little spiffing up. And then I contacted Susan, because Susan's the tree lady, and it might be an opportunity to get some trees over there. And spiff Miners Bend up. You talked about putting down some more rock. So I think they were gonna, I included Tom, I think they might work on that.
Would
Frank,
lighting possibly be part of that for Miners Bend?
I don't know. Frank offered to help with the application part. He helped build Miners Bend, so he has a ton of knowledge about what's there and what kind of resource it is. And
And are you specifically talking about trees in the parking area? Is that what you're?
I'm not sure. It's a grant for parks, and, Frank wanted to consider Miners Bend, and I mentioned to Frank that, maybe trees beyond rock could be included in that, and he loved that idea. I think because we all think if it was shadier there, people might park there, and then they would visit Miners Bend and, benefit for everybody. So I just kind of passed that off, but it is out there. Kind of another Susan thing. A neighbor approached me and asked what the city policy is, and I just asked Tom this afternoon, and I'm not sure if we really figured out the answer yet, but she was interested in hiring some goats to clear a couple of lots right in my neighborhood. So just two city lots. It's not a huge thing. And she asked if that was okay, if there was an ordinance, allowing it or preventing it. And I didn't really think so. I mean, it's not keeping livestock, it's just having them for a day. And it might be kind of a nice small scale dry run. And I'm sure she could give us her input about what it cost and if it was worth it and who did it and everything else.
Is there some such ordinance, Tom, that you're aware of?
I think Claire, yeah, I was trying to, I mean, we do have ordinances about not having livestock within city limits.
Uh-huh.
certain
That live
zones.
there.
So, and we're pretty complaint driven in terms of enforcement.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if it really was in and out in a day, I don't know. that
They're
people would
tourist goats.
complain.
They wouldn't,
Yep.
they wouldn't be out in a day.
Yeah.
It doesn't take them long, but they can't eat that lot in a day, unless you maybe put in 100 of them. I don't know.
That's
So-
a different issue.
So
It
again,
just-
my attitude was if somebody tries it and nobody complains,
My mom and dad had goats in their back field there behind their house, right across the street here for a
Right.
decade, and
That's right.
nobody ever complained.
Yeah.
And
I mean, again, I
they were
think,
never
I think what
cited.
generates complaints are, loud animals
Right.
and or if they're right at the property line doing something to a neighboring property.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, it
Cool.
seems like a pretty good test control site to me.
Yeah.
The neighbors all around are kind of into it and it's pretty small area and, we could
Good.
see how it goes. And then the other thing, I guess, is just maybe Pam can help us with this. There's been a lot of water leaks and different things popping up just because it's winter, and I don't know if it has anything to do with the projects the AWA is doing. I had a conversation with Tom earlier because I get a lot of calls, and then I pass it on to Dan and Tom, and that's not necessarily the right way to do things. But I think a lot of people don't know what the right way to report things is. So if we could post that to the city website somewhere, not just water, but, just kind of procedurally, the links for who to call for this, that, and the other, and make sure all 5 of us know the answer to that, I think it would be really helpful.
Will do, Ms. Mayor.
Good idea.
City Attorney's Report. Information and correspondence.
so there were a lot of reports there. If you guys had any
Yes, there were.
questions.
My only comment is, it's nice to have, the time off during the holiday season, but to digest, within a week or, 8 days, 2 months of 8, different reports is a bit of a challenge. Like I didn't even get, so Mason, you're off the hook for tonight. So, because I didn't even get
A
down.
lot of checks. It's a lot of checks.
So that's the only, I don't know if we're not going to have a meeting, say, one meeting a month, that we can still get the reports. So we can at least, because this is our really only way of keeping updated on a broad sense. So if we're not going to have a meeting, is it possible to still have the reports available rather than having everything in mass?
Yeah, it's a reasonable request. So we'll keep that in mind for next December.
I had on your reports, Mason, I just made a little note, it looked like they were slightly different with the 2 months, which makes sense because I know you're trying different formats to see what works.
Yeah.
But there's one called the Expense Application Report. Starts on page 57. Kind of looked like our old warrants that I thought was helpful because it
Yeah.
had the checks paid, the department, and you can get an idea of what it was for.
Yeah.
I like that one. And then
Yep.
there was a note in the staff report about some painstaking process that you go through that you're not going to have to go through again because it's going to be part of the deal with the new auditor.
Yes.
Is that right? So
Yeah. So there's a brutal state controller's office report. It's we do 2 pretty major state controller's office reports every year. I do the one is the streets report that I collaborate with Dan on to how we spend our streets, our highway users tax, and our road maintenance and rehab funds that we get from the state. It's specifically for roads. How we spend that money, and also, you know, if we're transferring in general fund money, where it's being spent, how much money we have. That's one of them, and I collaborate with Dan on that. The other one, the one I'm mentioning in this report, is the financial transactions report. This report is all other activity for the city, and it's brutal. It's very long and arduous, but our previous last year, Mays and Associates, our previous auditors, did it for me, and our new auditors agreed to continue to do it for us as well. So that's a huge burden off. I still do one for ARSA, but this one is there's a lot more activity going on, so it's helpful for the auditors to do it for us. And when they use the audited financials, you know, the state controller's office really appreciates that as well. So
Great. Actually, I did have one comment. It's regarding the late or missing TOT funds,
mhm,
you know, from,
from December.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any way to incentivize, I mean, without going to a penalty, but establishing deadlines? Maybe, I don't know, adding, you know, an extra 1% if it goes past this deadline, you know, or 3% if it goes past this deadline,
Mhm.
to try to encourage,
Timely payments.
yeah, so to keep you up, you
Right.
know, and our budget both. So I don't know if that could be a discussion on how to encourage
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've been fortunate in the past where it's not really an issue consistently, but
It looked like there was a fair amount of money being.
it was, and
Yeah.
I think it was unfortunate. Just the ones that were late this time were big ones. But they were always the consistent ones though. So I'm
They're
not,
consistently late?
no, consistently paid
Oh,
on
okay.
time. So I think it was just kind of a one-off thing, but
Okay,
I do think, I mean, in the past, we've seen other more consistently tardy payers that maybe we can look into some kind of enforcement, like teeth that we do have
we just
penalties.
think to help you, not to, you know.
It's
start
hard, you know.
policing, But
Yeah, I mean, the penalties that we do charge, you know, is meant to be sort of like the incentive to avoid those, but maybe they're not sufficient. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say. Um, we do, you know, in my office, we're pretty good about communicating with them as much as we can. Sometimes, you know, mailing addresses get changed and they don't notify us, and then we have to hunt them down. But that's just that's with anything.
okay.
But no, I think that's a
It's
good.
just a-
I think this one was a fluke. I think because the ones that didn't pay are usually the ones that are always on time. So
That's good.
maybe it was just because of the holidays, December. I don't know. Hard to say, but yeah.
Any other comments on the information and correspondence? Nope.
Mason and I have tons of stuff. We'll talk about it Thursday.
Oh,
Okay,
Looking forward to it.
that sounds good.
Okay, then we're going to take a brief recess and then go into closed session.
I'm worried. We're not going to back up both the agenda. That's 10 minutes.
Stop the recording.
Oh, yes, good. Yeah, yeah, I shared it with a friend. It's, we enjoyed it too. Thank you.
No. Yeah. Started cracking. Exactly. And I didn't want to go on Mr. That's how you pronounce your last name. This pronounces Paramount, but. You're a Wilson different. Okay, so it's. So it's pretty much finished. Yeah, so anything like the pump is finished. Okay, so it's turned on. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to.
Yeah, they still have-
But your that was good for me.
I want them to.
Yeah, CJ, yeah. I feel, I so badly want to say it's kitty pee, but I. So I just, that's, and
Like she said,